Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Let us chant one round of japa with Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा, कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे हरे। हरे राम, राम राम हरे हरे। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता जी की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam for All session. We are going to have a short class today because I have another class at ISKCON Philadelphia. So I'll be ending very shortly. Maybe we'll do one verse of Bhagavatam after we recite Bhagavad Gita Sloka. So let's begin. We're going to recite from the 12th chapter. But before that, let's see what's today's Monday. So we'll be learning a new shloka. The last one that we memorized was 12.5. So next is 6 and 7. We learned 12.5, so the next one will be 6 and 7. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 12, devotional service, text 6 and 7. Please repeat after me. ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषाम् अहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि नाचिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषाम् अहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि नाचिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि नाचिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So I'll read it one more time. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So we are not going to take turns reciting today. We'll just begin Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 14, King Pururava, enchanted by Urvashi. So we saw that King Pururava, after he got to spend one night with Urvashi, he became desperate because she was leaving and he didn't want her to leave. So then she suggested that he please the demigod, the Gandharvas, by worshipping the Gandharvas, by offering prayers to the Gandharvas, that he satisfy them. And that way she would be able to come back to him. They can send her to him. So he did that. But the Gandharvas gave another girl called Agnisthali instead of Urvashi. At first he thought it was Urvashi, but he found out it was not her. So then he just rejected her, left her there and went back home. And he was meditating on Urvashi. Meanwhile, the time changed from the yuga changed from Satya Yuga to Treta Yuga. And the Yuga Dharma of Treta Yuga is Yagya. So naturally, from within his heart, he was inspired to perform Yagya. Of course, the purpose of Yagya is to please the Supreme Lord. But here, because he was so attracted, or in other words, he was so lusty, his desires to enjoy with Urvashi were not satiated. So he decided to perform Yagya in order to get Urvashi. So he went to the forest, to the same place where he had left Agni Sthali, he went to the same place, and there he saw that from a Shami tree, Ashwatha tree was growing. So he took 2 pieces of wood from that Ashwatha tree, Arani woods, right? Arani means they are like special wood, with mantras chanted in them. And then with a third piece of wood, he used those 2 Arani pieces of wood to ignite fire, and with that he was going to perform sacrifice. So what was his meditation while he was chanting mantra? And what was the mantra that he was chanting? He was chanting Om, like that. So this Om means what? Om is the sound vibration of the absolute truth, right? So by chanting this, yagyas are performed, and the purpose of his yagya was he wanted to go to the same planet where Urvashi was residing. And then his meditation was while he was performing this yagya, this arani, while he was rubbing this arani, the upper arani was himself, King Pururava, the lower arani is Urvashi, and the third piece of arani in between, which was used, to ignite fire, that he meditated that was their son, like this. So then, of course, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained us how a son can be obtained by 3 ways, from one's wife, or second way is by initiation. A spiritual master gets a disciple. Disciple is like a son. And then the third one is by yagya, like here. You perform a sacrifice, like you do this yagya, right? Putreshti Kamya Yagya, where you're desiring to have a son and you perform a yagya and you get a son, like that. But in all these 3 methods of obtaining a son, you chant the transcendental sound vibration, Om. And when you chant this mantra, your desires will be fulfilled in one of these 3 ways. In all 3, by chanting this mantra, your desire will be fulfilled. So then, what did we see? Text 47. By means of that fire, Pururava, who desired to go to the planet where Urvashi resided, performed a sacrifice by which he satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, the enjoyer of the results of sacrifice. Of course, because he was doing this yagya, even though he was meditating on Urvashi, he followed the procedure of yagya. By that yagya, he was able to satisfy Lord Hari. Thus, he worshipped the Lord who is beyond the perception of the senses and is the reservoir of all demigods. So there, Srila Prabhupada, so this was the purport that we discussed extensively yesterday. Yeah, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Krishna is the enjoyer, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. So the purpose of a sacrifice is the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And then how this yagya is very important. Without yagya, you cannot get even what you need to live peacefully in this world, what to speak of, uh, you know. So whatever desires you may have, by performing yagya, you can fulfill those desires. By performing yagya means by pleasing the Supreme Lord. Then Srila Prabhupada says, what is the way to please the Supreme Lord in Kali Yuga? By the Sankirtan Yagya. By this Sankirtan Yagya, the Supreme Lord will be pleased. Okay. So then, next, today's verse. Is Arunita there? If not, Inya will recite. Read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Eka eva pura vedaha pranavaha sarvavanmayah devo narayano nanya ekognirvarna evacha. Go ahead.
In the Satya Yuga, the first millennium, all the Vedic mantras were included in one mantra, Pranava, the root of all Vedic mantras. In other words, the Arthatha Veda alone was the source of all Vedic knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was the only worshipable deity, and there was no recommendation for worship of the demigods. Fire was one only, and the only order of life in human society was known as Hamsa. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In the Satya Yuga, so now the Yuga changed, but it just changed to Treta Yuga. Before that, Pururava Maharaj, Urvashi, they were in Satya Yuga. So in the Satya Yuga, the first millennium, all the Vedic mantras were included in one mantra, Pranava. That means if you simply chanted Om, that included all mantras. In other words, whatever is your desirable result or whatever is your meditation, whatever you want, just like here, Pururava Maharaj wanted a son. Let's say someone, and he wanted to go to Swarga. Why? Because Urvashi lived in Swarga. Let's say someone else wanted some other result, right? Maybe he wanted liberation, right? So whatever your desire, so there were not separate mantras. All mantras were included in this one pranava. If you simply chanted Om, that included all mantras. All the Vedic mantras were included. When was this? This was in the Satya Yuga. So in the Satya Yuga, the first millennium, all the Vedic mantras were included in one mantra, Pranava, the root of all Vedic mantras. In other words, the Atharva Veda alone was the source of all Vedic knowledge. Atharva Veda. Actually, we study the Yajur Veda, isn't it? From Yajur Veda, all the others. So, just before Kali Yuga, Vyasdev divides means there's only one Veda before, but because the yeah, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, some say Yajurveda. Okay, so originally there's only one Veda, Yajurveda. All the mantras are there in Yajurveda, and the entire Veda is taught by the spiritual master to the disciple. How? By speaking. And by once hearing from the spiritual master, the disciple would know it for life. And he would not only know it, he would be able to transmit it to his disciples. And in this way, through disciplic succession, the Vedic knowledge was transmitted through from one generation to another. But in Kali Yuga, because people are so degraded, they have such poor memory, it could not be expected that one person would be capable to study the entire Veda. It is not possible. So then Vyasadev, seeing the uh, the capacity of the people of Kali Yuga, what he did was from Yajur Veda, he took one set of mantras, right? One type of mantras, and he put them into he gave a separate name, Rig Veda. Then again from that Yajur Veda, he took some more mantras, related mantras, and called it Sama Veda. And another group of mantras, he took them and put them as Atharva Veda. And also he took the Puranas and Itihasas. They were also there in that one Veda. And he put them out as Puranas and Itihasas. Even the Mahabharata is also in the Veda. That is also put separately. Then whatever mantras, still some mantras were remaining in the original Yajur Veda after separating everything. So that was left as Yajur Veda. That was left as Yajur Veda. That's how you have four: Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, Puranas and Itihasas. Actually five. This happens just before the beginning of Kali Yuga. Every time Vyasadev will appear and he will. Vyasa means one who divides. He divides the one Veda into four Vedas plus Puranas and Itihasas. But before Kali Yuga, in Satya Yuga, you don't have different, four types of Vedas and Puranas and Itihasas. Everything is included in one Veda, and all mantras, Vedic mantras, are included in that one pranava. By chanting Om, all Vedic mantras are included in there. This is Satya Yuga. So here it is said Atharva Veda, but in the purport Srila Prabhupada says some say Yajur Veda. So the way we studied is Yajur Veda. So in the Satya Yuga, the first millennium, all the Vedic mantras were included in one mantra, Pranava, the root of all Vedic mantras. In other words, the Atharva Veda alone was the source of all Vedic knowledge. Atharva Veda alone was the source of all Vedic knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, was the only worshipable deity. Yes, and it's not like you had so many demigod worships and this and that. No need, right? There's only one worshipable deity, Lord Narayan. There was no recommendation for worship of demigods. See, Satya Yuga, there's one deity to worship, there is one mantra, there's one scripture. There was no recommendation for worship of the demigods. Fire was one only, and the only order of life in human society was known as Hamsa. That means you didn't even have this Varnashram. What to speak of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra? There was only one order called the Hamsa. What do you mean by Hamsa? Like Paramhamsa, right? So that is the perfection. Like when one takes to spiritual life, then he does not identify himself as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. In other words, what it means is people were so advanced spiritually, all people in the society were so advanced spiritually, they didn't identify themselves with their bodies. They didn't identify themselves as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha. They simply identified themselves as a spirit soul or as a servant of the Supreme Lord. At least as a spirit soul, right? That Brahma Jnanam is there with everyone. So therefore, there's only one order, not 8 orders. There's only one order, Hamsa. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, India.
I read yesterday.
No, Inba read.
Okay, Mataji, it's fine. Purport.
Mataji, we all read yesterday, Mataji.
How come? Oh, no, this is second round again because remember, our Mataji, Achintya
okay.
Prabhu, yeah, this is second round. Go ahead.
In Satya Yuga, there was only one Veda, not 4. Later, before the beginning of Kali Yuga, this one Veda, the Atharva Veda, or some say the Yajur Veda, was divided into 4. Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva, for the facility of human society. In Satya Yuga, the only mantra was Omkara, Om Tat Sat. The same name Omkara is manifest in the mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Unless one is a Brahmana, one cannot utter Omkara and get the desired result. But in Kali Yuga, almost everyone is a Shudra, unfit for pronouncing the Pranava, Omkara. Therefore, the Shastras have recommended the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Omkara is a mantra or Mahamantra, and Hare Krishna is also a Mahamantra. The purpose of pronouncing Omkara is to address the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudev, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And the purpose of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is the same. Hare, O energy of the Lord. Krishna, O Lord Krishna. Hare, O energy of the Lord. Rama, O Supreme Lord, O Supreme Enjoyer. The only worshipable Lord is Hari, who is the goal of the Vedas. Vedaishcha sarver ahameva vedyaha. By worshipping the demigods, one worships the different parts of the Lord, just as one might water the branches and twigs of a tree. But worshipping Narayana, the all-inclusive Supreme Personality of Godhead, is like pouring water on the root of the tree, thus supplying water to the trunk, branches, twigs, leaves, and so on. In Satya Yuga, people knew how to fulfill the necessities of life simply by worshipping Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same purpose can be served in this age of Kali by the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, as recommended in the Bhagavatam. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Rajet.
Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one becomes free from the bondage of material existence and thus becomes eligible to return home back to God.
Yeah, thank you. So, talking about Satyuga, what is the situation in Satyuga? So, we already discussed in Satyuga there's only one Veda, there's no Sama, Yajurig, and Atharva Veda. Then, what is the purpose of this division in Kali Yuga? To facilitate the human society. Then there was only one mantra also, that was Omkara Pranava. Then why we don't have Omkara as the mantra in Kali Yuga? Because to chant this mantra, Omkara, you have to be a Brahmana. That is the condition. And 246. Traigunya Vishya Veda. You're quoting that one?
No, Mataji, Yavanartha Udapane.
यावदर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके तावान अर्थेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः. So as all purposes of a small well are fulfilled by a great can be fulfilled by a great reservoir of water, similarly all purposes of the Vedas can be attained by one who knows the purpose behind them, right?
Yes, Mataji.
So yeah, why you're quoting this? Because if one is a devotee, is that what you're saying? If one worships the Supreme Lord, then whatever he wants, he can get from whatever one can obtain by chanting various mantras of Vedas. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna or Om, you can get. Is that what you're trying to tell?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Okay. So, yes. So, why Omkara? We cannot, utter Omkara in Kali Yuga, because there are conditions, even for just reciting the Vedas, chanting the Vedas, studying the Vedas, there is a qualification. Not everyone can study the Vedas. You have to be a Dvija. First of all, you have to be twice born, and then you can study the Vedas. That means you have to have samskaras. You have to have samskaras to be able to study and understand. What to speak of understanding, even to recite, it's very complex. The knowledge, the language used in the Vedas is very complex, whereas the language used in the Puranas is simplified. It is simplified. So, for somebody to be able to study the Vedas, understand them, there is, a high bar. There's an expectation, right, of his advancement. So he has to be a Brahmana. Who is a Brahmana? So first of all, he has to be twice born. That means by what happens when one goes through samskaras, he becomes purified. He becomes purified. So unless one is a Dvija, he cannot he cannot understand the Vedas. He's not eligible. He's not eligible to join the Gurukul and study from the Guru. It's not possible. So in Kali Yuga, where is the training? Where are the samskaras? Who is a Brahmana? Kalau Sudra Sambhava, right? Everyone is born a Shudra in Kali. So, but samskarat bhavet dvijaha. By samskara, one can become a dvija. But where are the samskaras? Where are we following those samskaras? If you follow, then you can. But by birth, everyone is a Shudra. So therefore, because of the degraded condition of the people in Kali Yuga, the most merciful Hare Krishna Mahamantra is given to chant. It's not that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra was not there in previous ages. It was there then also. But especially in Kali Yuga, this is the only Mahamantra that's going to work. Okay? But in Kali Yuga, almost everyone is a Shudra, unfit for pronouncing the Omkara, Pranava. Therefore, the Shastras have recommended the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Omkara is also Mahamantra, Hare Krishna is also Mahamantra. Then why one chants Omkara? To address the Supreme Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om, right? All Vedic mantras begin with Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And what is the purpose of chanting Hare Krishna? Hare means, O energy of Krishna, O Srimati Radharani, right? And Rama, Krishna means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, addressing the Supreme Lord. So the purpose is the same in both cases, whether you are chanting Pranava or you are chanting Hare Krishna, you are addressing Hari, the Supreme Lord. And he is the personality of Godhead, is the goal of the Vedas. So one who is systematically studying the Vedas, what is the goal? Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyaha. It is to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you are chanting Hare Krishna, what is the goal? Same thing. You're trying to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the goal. Now what about demigod worship? By worshipping demigods, one worships the different parts of the Lord, just as one might water the branches and twigs of a tree. So Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who worships the various demigods, they are also worshipping me only. How? Because they are not independent of me, they are my limbs. But this type of worship is not correct way of worship. They are doing so in a wrong way, Krishna says. By worshipping the demigods also they are worshipping me, but they are doing it in the wrong way. If they should worship me directly, that is Krishna's expectation. So demigod worship is not recommended. So in Satyuga nobody would do that. Worshipping Narayan, the all-inclusive Supreme Personality of Godhead, is like pouring water on the root of the tree. So all the demigods are satisfied if you worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the demigods are the limbs of the Supreme Lord. Everyone is satisfied. You may not think, oh, I used to worship that demigod before coming to Krishna consciousness. Now if I don't worship, if I stop, that demigod may get offended. No, they won't get offended. If you are serving Krishna, they are also served. They are served automatically. And people knew this in Satyuga. In Kali Yuga, we become confused. In Satyuga, people didn't become confused. It's not that they denied the existence of demigods or the demigods didn't exist. No, it's not like that. But their understanding is the root is Lord Narayan. If you serve Lord Narayan, then everyone, all the demigods are satisfied. I don't have to worship the demigods separately. I don't have to, do pujas for them separately. So in Kali Yuga also, if you simply chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it's made even simpler now, right? Simply chant Hare Krishna. That's what is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Kirtana Deva Krishna, this is in the 12th canto, right? Simply by chanting the names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and specifically which name, most recently Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and gave us the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one becomes free from the bondage of material existence and becomes eligible to return back home, back to Godhead. And actually the highest perfection is they'll be able to develop love of Krishna, love of Godhead, simply by chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Not one, there are many, many, many verses. If you just read Srimad Bhagavatam, you will see so many verses in different places glorifying, chanting the holy name of the Lord, right? Whether you are full of desires, whether you are, full of desires means you have material desires, or you don't have any material desires, you want liberation, or you just want devotional service, whoever you may be, the doubtless way, fearless and doubtless way of achieving perfection is what? Continuous chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And specifically, what is that? The Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Again and again and again we see this. So this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the way to perfection, whatever it may be. You want something material, you want something spiritual, everything can be attained simply by chanting Hare Krishna. So I'm going to stop the class here today. Please forgive me for that because I have another class. I have to go, but I didn't want to just skip today's class. So I just logged in anyway, and we will continue tomorrow. Uh, Maybe I can quickly read Leelamrita. We didn't read. Let me bookmark this. So tomorrow, Jai Ganesh Prabhu and Jai Shri Mataji will begin reading from Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita. Okay, let's read the second verse of Bhagavad Gita. We completed the first verse and we read the purport also, completed. So we'll read the second verse. Please repeat. Sanjaya Uvacha Drishtva tu Pandavanikam Vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army, arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words. So, do you remember what happened in the previous verse? Dhritarashtra uvacha dharmakshetre kurukshetre samaveta yutsava mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata. What did my sons and the sons of Pandu do after they assembled in the place of pilgrimage in Dharmakshetra called Kurukshetra? After they assembled, and how did they assemble? With the desire to fight. They assembled there. What did they do? And what was the intention of Dhritarashtra? His intention was, or he was trying to impress upon Sanjaya that because of by the influence of this Dharma Kshetra, have my sons changed their mind? Of course, the Pandavas are virtuous anyway. Whether Dharma Kshetra or not Dharma Kshetra, they are always virtuous. But my sons, by the influence of this Dharma Kshetra, they may have changed their mind and they may have compromised with the Pandavas and decided, what is the whole point in fighting? Let's not fight, right? Let's, I'll give your kingdom back so that we live peacefully. Did something like that happen? This is what Dhritarashtra is trying to impress upon Sanjay. And if that has happened, that's very good. But what exactly is he thinking in his heart? No, this battle should not stop. It must happen. Why? Because we have Bhishma on our side. And this is a very good time. Because Bhishma is fighting on our side, the Pandavas can be killed. Arjun will be killed by Bhishma Dev. And if the Pandavas are killed, they will be out of our way. If they remain, if the battle does not happen, if they live, they will remain as a thorn forever. My son Duryodhan will not be able to live peacefully. He won't be able to rule the kingdom. He will always be fearful. So this was within the heart of Dhritarashtra. Although externally smiling, he was trying to impress upon Sanjaya that if they have decided not to fight, this is very good. He's trying to show that, but this was inside his heart. And Sanjaya, being the very close associate of Dhritarashtra, could understand what was in the heart of Dhritarashtra. Even though Dhritarashtra was not saying it, Sanjaya could understand what was in the heart of Dhritarashtra. So when Dhritarashtra asked, what did they do? Sanjaya is also answering, I know that you want the battle to happen, right? You don't want the battle to stop. Don't worry, my dear king. That's exactly what is going to happen. The battle will take place, it will not stop. But your desire that Bhishma will kill Arjun and your son Duryodhan will become the emperor, that desire is not going to be fulfilled, right? He won't say it immediately, but Sanjay could understand. So, with that intention, now Sanjaya is speaking. What is Sanjaya saying? Sanjaya Uvacha Drishtva tu Pandavanikam. Drishtva tu Pandavanikam. Drishtva, after seeing Pandavanikam, all the Pandavas' army, viewed him, right? Nicely. arranged. Duryodhanastada Acharim Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. So Duryodhan, so this is Sanjaya telling um, Dhritarashtra Maharaj that after seeing the Pandavas' army so nicely arranged, what did Duryodhana experience? He was surprised. They were just in the forest. We have all, they had a lot more, almost double the Akshauhinis than what the Pandavas had, Kauravas had. So he was thinking they'll be defeated very easily. They don't have such a big army. But when he saw how strategically, how nicely the whole army was arranged, he started experiencing fear. Who? Duryodhan. So then he went up to his spiritual master out of this, not spiritual master, military teacher. He went to Dronacharya, but he was trying to hide his fear. Although he was trying to hide his fear, it was obvious. So the next verses, several verses, I think 9 verses or something, you will see Duryodhan speaking to Dronacharya, and he's expressing, you can see he's expressing his fear also. So that's the commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So now we'll just read Srila Prabhupada's purport. Yeah. Sanjay said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. Physically, he was blind. Spiritually, also, he was blind. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion. Just like him, his sons were also spiritually blind, and he knew that. And he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage. And Sanjaya could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Why Dhritarashtra is saying, what did they do? It's actually a very ridiculous question, right? Like Srila Prabhupada says, you serve prasadam to somebody and you say, oh, after all this nice chappan bhog was served to this person, you go and ask the person who served that prasad, what did they do after the whole prasadam was served? What will they do? They will eat. Do you ever hear such a question? Right? There's a host and you serve prasadam, everyone sat down, you served, and then the question, the person who's, the host is asking the servants, you served all this prasadam, what did all the people do after you served? Of course they will eat. So it was a very ridiculous question for Dhritarashtra to say that they were all assembled on the battlefield with weapons raised and everything. And what did they do after that? So Sanjay could understand why Dhritarashtra is asking such a question. What is his motive behind that? Sanjay could understand. That's the point. So Sanjay could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjay wanted therefore to encourage, he wanted to encourage the despondent king, and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Don't worry. You want the battle to happen, right? It is going to happen. Nobody has compromised. Sanjay therefore informed the king that his son Duryodhan, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhan is mentioned as the king, right? Another important thing, notice here, Raja, Raja Vachanam Abravit, right? So the king spoke these words to whom? To the Acharya. Acharya is Dronacharya. So Raja means the king. Which king? Duryodhan. So he's addressing Duryodhan as the king. Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra that the king went to Acharya to speak the following words, or he spoke the following words. The king spoke the following words. Again, kind of, you know, encouraging Dhritarashtra, right? He'll feel happy. Oh, my son is going to be the king, or he is the king. In one sense, also, although it was Dhritarashtra who was sitting on the throne, practically it was Duryodhana who was managing everything. He was the one who was taking decisions and ruling. So in that sense also he's the king. So yeah, although Duryodhana is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician. See, he is the king, right? So, and even though he's the king, he's going to the commander because he's he's concerned. He's concerned about the enemy's position, right? He is the king, but he's going. That means he's very to get his work done, he can do anything. This is called diplomacy or politics. That's what Srila Prabhupada is saying. This shows that he's quite fit to be a politician. Even though he's the king, he's approaching the commander. This shows that he is quite fit to be a politician. But Duryodhana's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. So, however diplomatic he was trying to be, which you will see in the next few verses, uh, it was very obvious that he was actually experiencing fear. So, then we'll see what happened after that in the next class. And we'll read Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrita a little bit. Continuation. So Srila Prabhupada got another room, right? And he's on his own now. Outside the closed windows of room 307, the late winter night has fallen. Prabhupada's words are punctuated with the muted sounds of car horns and occasional sirens from the street, and sometimes by the startling chords of a lonely fog horn on the Hudson. Although bare, the room is warm. Prabhupada is speaking on the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Now Arjun is perplexed. He is perplexed about whether to fight or not to fight. After seeing in front of him his relatives with whom he was to fight, he was perplexed. And there was some argument with Krishna. Now, here is a point. Krishna, so now what is the scene here? Srila Prabhupada is in his room and there are some visitors who came. Prabhupada had a very small room, just like a corridor, a very small room, and there was not even a bathroom or toilet there, just one small room. He would stay there in that building. But some guests would come, a few handful, sometimes they would come. And Prabhupada is speaking. And Prabhupada actually held classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Bhagavad Gita. So now Prabhupada is speaking on the second chapter. So that's what is happening here. So Prabhupada is speaking on the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada is saying, now here is a point. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada's voice is earnest, persuading. Sometimes his speech becomes high-pitched and breaks with urgency. His cultured British diction bears a heavy Bengali accent. Suddenly he pauses in his lecture and addresses someone in the room. Prabhupada, what is that? Man, what? Prabhupada, what is this book? Man, well, this is a translation of the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada is obviously displeased that while he is speaking, someone is looking through a book. This is hardly like the respect offered to learned speakers described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada, well, no, you can hear me. That means no need to look into the book, you can just hear me. The man, I'm hearing. Prabhupada, yes, don't turn your attention, just hear me. He is taking the role of a teacher correcting his student. Of course, there is no compelling reason why any of his casual guests should feel obliged to obey him. He simply begs for their attention and yet demands it. Just hear me as the attempts to convince them or as he attempts to convince them of Krishna consciousness. You have heard that one must accept the spiritual master after careful examination, just as one selects a bride or a bridegroom after careful examination. In India, they are very careful because the marriage of boys and girls takes place under the guidance of the parents. So the parents very carefully see to it. Similarly, one has to accept the spiritual master. It is necessary. According to Vedic injunctions, everyone should have a spiritual master. Perhaps you have seen a sacred thread. We have got sacred thread. Mr. Cohen, you have seen sacred thread? Like this. So we'll stop here. Thank you all, dear devotees. I will see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. All of you have a wonderful day in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.